All right. Hi there. Thanks for joining me on Profit with a Plan podcast. This is where you can get some great ideas to create your most profitable small business. Just so you know, financial planning isn't only for those that have a lot of money or run big companies. A workable financial plan is for us everyday small business owners and professionals that want to make great financial decisions that lead to bigger profits. So join me, Marcia Reiner, your financial business strategist, fractional CFO, and certified financial planner each Tuesday for some smart ideas that can add more profits to your bottom line. I help ambitious business owners grow their profits fast using unique ways of growing their income and spending strategically that produce bigger profits without killing themselves or constantly chasing after more clients. If you know of anyone that may be curious, share this podcast and let's chat and see what we can do together to make greater profits in your business. So today I'm super excited to have my friend Bruce Braviroff with me. He is a fractional CFO, similar to me, and his company is Your CFO. So Bruce and I have been doing some amazing things together, and we think together. We're like two heads creating one. And today I thought we'd share something that is really important. It's 10 things that you must watch in your business money. And we're going to kind of rattle through them and give you our insights on them and just go from there. So, hey, Bruce, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Do you want to give us a little more insight into you as to how you got on this plan?
I started out in banking and finance, and a client asked me to come to work for him as helping, and eventually became a CFO. I've been a CFO for about 20 years now on and off, and I've worked for printing companies, for film restoration, for plastics, and all kinds of companies. And it's just what I do, and I like the fractional because it gives me the ability to touch a lot of things. I'm more of a nuts and bolts person of getting in and fixing and creating solving the financial issues that a lot of growth companies have, and then turning around and raising the money. My specialty is really the backside of getting them ready and then raising the money.
That's awesome. And I think that you've used the phrase several times that's really brought it to me and hit home with me that you are, and as I follow you, you are the first CFO a small business usually gets to. And then after they see you and they're growing to a certain level, they're going to eventually hire a full-time CFO. But you're their first experience with that CFO, and I really love that.
Most of the time, I really am the very first financial professional they brought into the business. And you're right. My job is to get them to where they need to be, and I'll deal with them for a long time. But ultimately, they should go on and hire a full-time CFO. And the question is where's that line? For some company, it might be $5 million. For another company, it might be $25 million. I'm working with a company right now as a fractional, and they're already doing $25 million a year. And I'm in doing the exact same thing, cleaning up the exact same sort of issues that I do all of the time to raise them, to end up helping raise them money.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So, well, let's get on with today's conversation then. So we are talking about the 10 things that you must watch in your business. And I think the first one, and Bruce and I are really easy at going back and forth, but I think the first one that you really have to look at is your income sources. And, you know, the three categories, or the two categories that are really most important is how many income sources do you have? Or are you a single solution, single driven business? I mean, you got to have more than one. Don't you agree, Bruce?
Well, it's a product mix issue. You can be a specialist as a machine shop and have lots of different products. You can be a doctor and have lots of different products that you're dealing with. And to me, it's be a specialist in what you do, but make sure you have a product mix that gives you a little bit broader income and a little bit broader client mix.
I think the other side of that I've told my listeners many times is that when you have one solution and only one solution that you offer, if the market makes a change on you and corrects and pulls out the rug from underneath you, you're essentially screwed. If you're doing things that are similar in solution, but different markets maybe, or different levels. If one goes down, you've still got the other to hold you up. And if you have 3 or 4, you've got some flexibility on how that comes if the market does take a correction on you.
Well, I have a customer.
It will, right?
Yeah. Well, I have a customer that's a sublimator, and sublimation is printing on fabric with color. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool product. But he's also gone into engraving on leather. Oh. And he's gone into engraving on several other surfaces. So he's taken his product mix and he's using his machinery for a new and unique way to do business. And he has developed some really nice products. And then he's also gone into promotion of helping people use his product to promote their business. So he's taken this one machine that he's invested a lot of money in and a lot of time, and he's turned it into 3 different market segments that any one of them can fold up and go away, and he'll be just fine because the other 2 will keep him alive. And the one I love is, who'd have thought using a laser cloth cutter to engrave on leather? Great idea, and it's beautiful.
Oh, I bet. So these are great ideas, and I encourage you as business owners to think about how many income sources do you have. And the flip side of that is, where are your clients coming from? So if you've got these multiple income sources, this is going to help you make your decisions on how to improve and increase it if you know exactly where the clients are coming from. As we just talked about in that example with the business owner that's printing on cloth and now printing on leather, he may have 2 different directions in his marketing to go after those clients because they may be two different worlds. They may be hanging out in 2 different areas.
Absolutely.
Cool. So what else do you think, Bruce, that might come along with their income sources that they absolutely need to follow and understand?
Well, I think understanding your clients. I think understanding your market. Today we have to think globally and react locally. And it's this thought of, I have to follow what's happening everywhere because at some point it's going to affect me. So if I'm a restaurant owner and I'm the Mexican restaurant here in town, there are 5 other Mexican restaurants around here. Those are my competitors. But I don't only have to watch them. I have to watch what the restaurant industry is doing. Restaurants right now are going in a big change from fine dining to fast casual. And it's a big shakeup in the restaurant industry. And they say that in another 3 to 4 years, 50% of all restaurant sales will be takeout. 20 years ago, if you'd have said that, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you're in Riverside, California, or Sioux City, Iowa, those things are not going to change. The whole market's going to go through it. And yes, you might go through it a little slower than LA or New York, but you're going to go through it. So watch what's going on around you globally.
Love it. So let's talk, those are really great insights, but let's talk a little bit about income production. I have a big value or an idea that I consult with my clients about making sure that you understand who your client is, but what those relationships are. And one of those things is understanding what that client is worth to you. And it could be over a cycle, it could be over a transaction, but you have to understand what that client's worth to you. Does that make sense to you, Bruce?
Absolutely. It's, do you listen to your client? I get beat to death. We all get beat to death with take our survey. Well, sometimes I'd rather hear the people that I'm buying from say, what else should I be doing for you? Mm-hmm. And it's getting to know your client and not being afraid to talk to them. And
feedback is essential.
Yeah, because they're the key component to what makes your life what it is. Your clients all go away, you got nothing left to do. So it's, I think, listening to the client. And yes, there's a dollar and cents component to this. You should be able to say, I know years ago, Costco used to say, everybody that walked through the door was $250.
Yes. And I think that's really important to understand with your client too. So what is your client life cycle? Does your client use you one time and done? Do they use you monthly? Do they use you twice a year. These are things that you need to understand about the client and what that is worth to you. So tell me more about the Costco thing, though.
Well, Costco has a theory that, they thought that everybody that walks through the door does a $250 sale. It's probably a lot more today. And Costco has worked hard to find how to increase that value. They want you, I remember when it was Price Club, and now it's Costco. And stand there and watch what people buy sometimes. It's
insane. But did you know, this might take us down a rabbit hole, but did you know that Costco, their margin on their products that they sell inside the club is ridiculously small, and really truly where they make their money is on the membership fees? Yeah, which is insane. You never think it is what it is, but I agree. People go in there. I jump up and down and yell, "Well, I got out of here for under $100 today."
Well, I have a friend that says a quick trip to Costco to grab something is still $100.
Oh, easy. Yeah. It's insane. So another thing that I think we need to look at in the income production side is, what's the average cart value that your client spends with you? So not just what it's worth to you over a period of a year or life expectancy. Your client, you're going to produce a certain amount of expectation of income from them for the next 5 years, but it's what is the average spend that they spend with you each time? And I think that that's really important in your calculations to understand that. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And depending on what you're doing, there's easy ways to affect that. And if there are other things you do, you just can't move it. They come to you for this one product. It's what you do, and this is what they come to you to buy. It's like a gas station. We all go there to buy gas.
Right.
Any other products? Not really.
I don't know. I tend to go get my gum or a Slurpee or, a bottle of water in there. So they do have extras in there, but I think understanding this, and this is why we're talking about these things today, that these are 10 super important things that you must monitor in your business, and understanding what your client's worth to you and the average cart value that client spends with you. This is essential because that's going to help you make the plans that you can going forward and make decisions going forward. And so I think it's just really important that you understand what these pieces are, because you can't change something you don't know, that you don't understand.
Data.
So then the third part that I think is really important on that income production is, how many relationships does each client have with you? And I've had this story several times about the banking world. The banking world sees you as multiple sticky relationships. They get your checking account. They get your kid's savings account. They take your credit card, or they get you a credit card. They want your mortgage and your car payment. And all of these relationships make you super sticky with your customers. If you can make multiple relationships in there, it's going to be so difficult to pick up and leave the relationship with the bank. That you just say, screw it, they're charging me. It's too much of a hassle to go back and do something different. What do you think on these relationship ideas?
It's funny when you're talking about it. I think the relationship you have with your clients is probably one of the most important relationships you have. Where I live, I'm asthmatic, and I spend a lot of time going to CVS to get meds. And there's a CVS that I've been going to for 5 years since I moved in here. And they built a new one that's a lot closer. I'm still driving over to the further one because I built the relationship with the people at that store, and they continue to take care of me. I could get the same product for the same price a little bit closer. I'm still driving to the people that take care of me. They built that customer loyalty. And they're there. And I don't want to go through all the work to do that somewhere else. To save myself a 1.5 mile drive. I'll make the 1.5 mile drive. Yeah. It
makes sense. I think the relationship that you create with your client is essential. It's the key to doing business. I just flew on Southwest, and it's funny. They always put on the announcement when you get on the plane, and it's like, we know you have choices on who you can fly with, and we appreciate you flying with us. And I just love that mentality. It's the same thing. You got to appreciate your clients and deepen that relationship.
When we were a kid, one of the newscasters used to say, "You have lots of choices. We appreciate you choosing us." Mm-hmm. And that little thank you to your customer is really important.
Love it. Love it. So let's talk about the third category, which is income projections. And you're pretty good at this, Bruce. So talking about probabilities and running those numbers and running the calculations. What's the first income projection that you think is really super important that you've got to be able to understand?
Well, projections are a plan of where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And you can't do a plan of where you want to go if you didn't know where you came from, because it's a trajectory. If you're here, it goes this way. And if your trajectory is this way, it changes. And what I find is that gathering the historical and getting to understand where you've been, and the people that run the business say, "Oh, I know where I've been." Not really. Have you looked at your financials? Do you know what you're doing? And then where you're going. And I heard years ago, and I still believe it, that if you sit down and write down a plan and actually watch it, your probability of getting there is 5,000% better than if you don't. And I don't know if it's 5,000%. I don't know if it's 5%, but I can tell you it's a big difference. And the people that spend the time to plan, it helps you think things through. I am a business planner. I do business plans for everybody else. I sat down this year and wrote myself another business plan. You wrote yourself another business plan. I have targets. You have targets. I want to know where I'm going. If you don't have those targets, it's like, well, I'm just going to do what I did last year. Well, if you just did what you did last year, you lost something because inflation just moved away from you.
That's so true. And I love that you're preaching the idea of a plan, because that's what both of us are all about. It is so important to know where you're going and where you started. I think the other thing is understanding the time frames that you're going into and setting realistic expectations on those projections. But you need to still calculate where the income is coming from. So you go back to the first one as who are your clients and what are they buying, and then you go into the second one and you know their income and the income you earn from them and the average cart value. You know, you can start to put those projections in play and say, all right, so I understand all of these things. Now I think if my client sees me on a regular period of time, then I'm going to expect that I'm going to earn this much from them, right? I mean, it just puts it in a planning kind of strategy.
One of the other ones that I love to laugh at is if you make something that doesn't deteriorate, or you sell something that doesn't deteriorate. I have a client who's bottling vodka.
Ooh, okay. Yay.
and the thing is, one of their bigger expenses is the glass and getting the glass made in China. Well, looking at their projections, they were going to do an order of X. Well, we can do an order of X times 2, and it doesn't cost times 2. It costs about 30% more. So, and does the glass deteriorate? Do the labels go bad? It's printed on the glass. So order the little bit of extra because you know you're going to need it.
And look for the cost.
Yeah, look for the cost savings by projecting further out. Because really, the extra double that costs you 30% reduces your cost on all of them. So you've saved money across the whole board. Now, it is an investment, but is it a good investment? If you're going to take 2 years to sell it, it's probably not. If you're going to take 6 months to sell it, it probably is. So you have to look at timing too.
That's perfect. And that's a perfect example, because that's a way how you can improve your income projections by looking at the potential of your sale, by reducing costs, by looking at how you can save everywhere you go. So I love that idea. So what else about income projections do you think that we could chat about that they might want to understand and really truly must monitor in their business?
Look at the costs. If you're a service provider and you're currently spending 25 minutes with each client and you're a $250 employee and you've got somebody that's a $75 an hour employee who can take 10 minutes away from you, what have they just done for you?
They've just gave you opportunity to make more money.
Right. And they freed you up to do more. And it's looking at what you're doing and assigning it to the right people. I'm working on a project right now for a client, and I am doing the dumbest clerical work in the world.
And a pretty high dollar, I'm sure, too.
And nobody else can do it because they don't have the time. They don't have this. They're paying me a real nice job to be a clerk.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah, those are definitely places that you can improve in. But again, if you don't monitor this, how can you know how to improve it, right?
Right.
So let's go on to the fourth thing that you must monitor. And we had this conversation earlier, and it's just crazy. A lot of businesses do this, but do they do it right? And we're talking about sales data. What are you doing with your sales data?
You've heard me say this, and I'll say it again. If you're not drowning in data, you don't have enough.
Right.
And with the modern systems, you have to choose what you're going to watch. Hence the phrase KPIs. Now, 10 years ago, KPIs, what's that mean? Today, I have to pick which things I'm going to monitor. And then when something happens that doesn't make sense on my KPI, I'll go digging around and find it. There is so much data, and you have so much data available to you that you use it all? Just
for the listeners out there that may on a strange tone not know what a KPI is, it's a key performance indicator. So these are things that you absolutely have to watch.
And every business has it. And it might be, well, how much is in my checkbook, Mm-hmm. It depends on your level and all of that. We watch it in our house. You've got kids, you watch how much milk they've gone through. These are what we do. And the systems, and we're talking on computers and the phones and everything. We've got data at our fingertips that we never had before. And 5 years from now, this will look like we didn't have anything. And
True.
So learn how to harvest it, learn how to use it. It makes you a stronger business owner.
I agree. And I think you can, I'm working with a company right now that we're talking about mining their data, and they have a lot of vital health information. And we're trying to figure out what is valuable for their decision making. They have to have so much data in play for their business and for their reporting and providing it for insurance. And then they've got the information that is the patient information. But then when I sit down with the CEO and I'm saying, well, what data do you think you need to make good decisions? And we're trying to, pull through the forest to find the trees that are important for them to make decisions. And so that's been a challenge for us. But I think, like you said, if you're not drowning in the data, then you don't have enough. And I think data is so important, and specifically sales data.
Well,
who's doing it?
Yeah, the thing that gets me is people collect all of this data on all of their customers and never use it to reach back out to their customers.
Right.
You go, you throw your business card in something and nobody harvests that and now sends you an ad. There's just so much information. Their credit card companies now will help you take all of the information of everybody that bought something with you and harvest it and use it. Mm-hmm. Why not do that? Oh, well, it costs too much. So
no, but do you know how much it costs to acquire a client? And that's something of value to understand. So if it costs you $10 to acquire a client, then you better be, using that $10 and earning that money in. That's just an example. But I mean, in internet marketing, you're always looking at what is the cost of my advertising to produce a single paying client. And you've got to make that an essential information, a KPI that you've got to follow.
And if somebody's bought from you before and you don't sell to them again, you've lost money on that.
You're shooting yourself in the foot.
It's money that's laying on the floor that you're not bending over and picking up.
I gotcha. It's all important. And as a business owner, you really, truly must monitor this information. So let's move a little along here to spending. So I've got number 5 as operational spending. And I like to say that, you've got ways to increase your income, and you've got ways to spend strategically And if your income goes up and your spending goes up nicely along with that and that spending produces an ROI, you're going to increase your profits. It's a little crazy. Income up, spending down is normally what you think. But I think that spending properly can really affect your business. And I think it's really important in the operational side. What is it absolutely necessary for you to function with? And I think you have to know those numbers. I mean, is that not correct? In every business, you got to know what it costs to function?
Well, but spending, and we'll circle back a little bit. I have someone in my circle who sells machine tools. And for 30 years, the best way to do that is knock on doors. Mm-hmm. They're finally moving over to using a good CRM. They're finally doing this. And they're all of a sudden finding they're selling more, but they've spent more time on and money building these systems. It amplifies who you are. You have to spend money to do this. And it has, there's a fine balance to it. You don't want to spend too much, but what's worse than spending too much is not spending enough.
And I agree. And then I think when you're spending too, you're spending on things that are equipment, you're spending on people, you're spending on systems and processes and efficiencies. I think that it's really important that you must put money into your business to make it grow, but it has to be very strategic and very operational. You have to understand, what is that function going to do for you? Is it going to make everything better? And if it's going to make it run smoother, then it's a great spend, right?
I have a client that they do a lot of different processes, but one of their key processes, they have one employee that knows how to do it. Mm. And it's a center thing to everything they do. And they've got a Rube Goldberg of a machine they've built to do it with. And they're now looking at how do we automate it and how we do that. Well, the one guy that knows how to do it, he's ready to retire. Mm. And they
better automate quickly, right?
Well, but here's the better part. When they're done, right now this part of their business runs one shift a day. They're a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 365-day a year shop. So by fixing and automating this one part, they're going to fill up and build out more through their entire system. And they had not realized that it was so central to themselves that it was their choke point. Hmm. And they had the processes choked because of this one thing. Well, they've been doing it and it saved them money. My favorite thing that I get upset with, and you've heard me say this, is please do not ever say to me, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Right. If the world stuck with that's the way we always have done it, then we never would be where we are today. We'd probably still be rolling rocks up hills, right?
Well, no wheels, that's for sure.
No wheels. So let's talk about the right people in the right role. And so here I want to give a little bit of conversation to this as well, is that we've spent 25 minutes already talking about only the first 5. So I got to tell you, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to end on this section here and pick up next week with 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, because this is so valuable. I think that you're going to just want to listen again next week for the other 5 things that you must monitor in your business. So Bruce, let's go on with the right people in the right role.
Well, we just talked about the guy who can run the machine. He's the right person in the wrong role.
Right. What about hiring people? We joke about this often, and it's not to put anybody down. So don't think about this, but hiring friends and family in key roles in your business, because, you want to take care of your friends and family, and maybe they were sitting down when you were strategizing the idea, but they're probably not the best person for that particular role, but you have this relationship with them, right?
Well, but if you hire friends and family, it's a completely different dynamic than if you hire a stranger. Mm-hmm. And the dynamic of, well, now I have to fire my friend. Now my
or mom, or mom,
or mom. Yes, we've been there. And the thing is, yes, I've hired friends and family. Would I do it again? Probably under some circumstances, but not really, because it's just, this is a business. I want people that I can tell what to do, and I'm not going to get any nonsense back about it. And the fact is that in a business world, that's professional, and friends and family are not. And if I'm against it at this point, and I deal with it a lot. And I've got one client that we've talked about who has somebody in a key position, and that business is going to fail if they don't change it. And they're afraid to change anything. So it just makes it really difficult to control a business. And
I agree. And it's so much of a problem that the business owner starts regretting, the employee starts regretting, because they tend to feel it. And nobody wants to have trouble at Thanksgiving dinner because you had to fire your cousin or whatever the situation was.
Well, you've heard me talk about the guy who said, I know my accounting's my problem. I really want to get it fixed, but mom's my accountant.
Right.
And he goes, I have to fire mom. I said, no, you don't. But he goes, well, what do I do? I said, let me worry about it. And I took mom out to lunch. I said, do you like what you're doing? And mom goes, no, I hate it. I'm only doing it because it helps my son. And, it's like this, well, then why don't you stand up and say so? Well, it helps my son. So the two people both wanted to change things, but they couldn't bring themselves together to talk about it. And then
because of the family dynamics.
And then along comes Bruce, and it's like, everybody's happy. And
I like Bruce, the fixer, right?
Yeah, but I just think it's just, you create a dynamic that doesn't work well when you hire family and friends. I
agree. And so the final part of this section of operational spending, and we're on number 5 right now. The other part on it, I'm a real big fan of. I think everything in business can be negotiated. You can negotiate your lease. You can negotiate terms on contracts. You can negotiate the pricing on it. You can negotiate so many things on it. I think as business owners, you've got to be able to understand that what's the real need that you're solving, and how can you make it work in your favor. Do you agree, Bruce?
Well, absolutely. And everything's negotiable, but the other side of it is bring in the person that knows how to negotiate against it. Sure. I've got a client who they're going into a new building, hadn't told me, and they're in the middle of negotiating a lease. I said, stop, let me bring in a commercial realtor. Commercial realtor comes in and he goes, well, I can't afford him. Well, the landlord pays for the commercial realtor, so it's free. He was going into this thinking he had to pay about $40,000 worth of build out. He got a $50,000 build out allowance because the commercial real estate guy came in. We're experts on negotiating financial structures and things like that. Don't be afraid to bring in the expert on it. I mean, I don't know anything about negotiating lighting and electricity, but I've got a friend that does. I've got a client that, or gee whiz, who hasn't negotiated with the IRS? If you haven't, and bring in an attorney because you're not good at it. So everything's negotiable, but make sure you've got the right person doing the negotiation, because we've all seen people agree to things that they thought was great in their negotiation. And you're going like, really?
Right. And then the flip side of that, you never know what you could have got if you had the right person in the right role doing the right thing for you. So it's super important to, and we've talked about this at least 100 times. We're experts on the financial side. You're an expert on the nuts and bolts. I'm an expert on the big strategy picture, looking at the functionality that's going on. And I think that understand where your lane is and stay in it. You got to understand enough of the big pictures on here, but stay in your lane and don't try and do things that you're not designed for.
And the thing is that you've heard me use this line. the people that don't stay in their lane and say they can do everything, to me, is like the one-size-all robe. It's going to fit me and Shaq, the same robe, just as it happens. So think about the one-size-fits-all approach never is quite the right approach. It fits about 50%.
Right.
But you need to use it a lot differently.
Agreed. So this is really great information. I mean, so far we've covered so much on these 10 things that you must watch in your business money. Your income sources, your production sources, or income production, your income projections. You've got to be able to know your numbers so you know where you're going to be and what you need to do to change it. You've got to understand your sales data, which is so important. Those KPIs will help you fine-tune what you're doing and get better at it. And then your operational spending. You've got to know what it is that's necessary, keeping people on track and negotiate on everything. This is wonderful stuff, Bruce. I can't wait to keep continuing on this. So thanks for listening today. I hope you found an idea or two to put into your business that will make you have more control over your money and more profitable. If you'd like to know specifically how to increase your own profits in your business, let's chat. My contact information is in the podcast below, as well as Bruce's. I'm super excited to announce my new book, Big Profit Secrets Exposed. It's on Amazon, and I'm on a speaking tour through 2020. So if you know anybody who might have an opportunity for me to speak at their group, I'd love to hear from you. All the contact information will be at the bottom or in the information for the podcast. So speaking of, you want podcast notes? Send me a quick email and we'll send them off to you. So I'd love to hear your questions, feedback, or ideas for future show. You can always comment or ask some questions on today's podcast, and we'll let you know what the answers are. So you can always reach me at marcia@bellafinancialgroup.com. You can catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and looking forward to more profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with it. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Have a great one.